Welcome to Defender Fridays, everybody. You know the name of the game. It's where we come together once a week to have chat with folks in the industry that are doing cool things. And today is definitely no exception. We've got John Tuckner, who's been a friend of Lima Charlie's for quite some time, and just all around really good guy. He's been connected to a lot of really cool things. John, I think as of most lately, you were with Tynes, working with probably one of the cooler SOAR platforms that I know of. But John is working on something new right now that, those of us that were at the Mission Control conference a couple months ago had the pleasure to kind of see what he's been working on. And I'll be honest, it was fascinating to me. And the topic for anybody that didn't see the calendar is around Chrome extensions, real browser extensions, and sort of the risks that they pose, which, to be clear, I don't think anybody's just oblivious to the fact that, these extensions pose risks. I think it's one of those things that we all generally kind of understand, and even I can point to a blog post I wrote in 2016 where I'm like, oh, look, I found a malicious extension by accident. Here's everything I learned about it. So I was aware, but sitting through his talk and seeing his demo, it just shocked me that not only is it still a problem, but there's actually no signs of it getting significantly better either. Even with the latest, V3 manifests and all that kind of good stuff. So anyway, not to take too much of your topic here, Don. It's a really fascinating topic. And I think it's one that defenders specifically, folks that are supporting enterprises, really need to know more about, because it's kind of like that thing that gets under the radar, right? Everybody's thinking about their EDR and their AV and blocking bad emails and, your web proxies to block phishing links. But those browser extensions, those are the ones that just kind of sneak in, and they can be just as devastating as any of those other attack surfaces. So anyway, I'm going to shut up, John. I want to hear this topic.
I mean, you did such a great background of what I think a lot of people have experienced when working with Chrome extensions or needing to investigate one at any given time. And really, they're not that hard to dig into deep when you find a true interest in it. But honestly, you get it done with your one malicious Chrome extension that you had a problem with. You learned a lot about the ecosystem and how they all work, and then you've kind of moved on to the next one, right? And that's fine and all, but this is happening to every organization, every company, every practitioner. I feel like in doing my research for this service, for this tool that I'm creating, has come upon this and dug in deep and really begun to learn how nasty the Chrome extensions can be. And when that specific incident or problem is resolved, then they move off and they continue on with the next enterprise project or alert that's coming in if you're an IR, and that it's a threat, but there's just these instances of problems and solutions that need to exist for security practitioners where they don't all have a Gartner Magic Quadrant assigned to them or a product class or marketed as an absolute necessity for an organization. But since there's so many smart security practitioners out in the world, we figure out ways to deal with these problems using open source tools or free tooling that exists out there. Somebody else has gone through this problem, created something, but it's always been patched together, or it's usually patched together if there's not a huge business push behind it. And these projects seem to come and go over time. And ultimately they all have a purpose and a place. And I don't know, I guess my background has just been to apply my skills to helping as many people as possible, no matter what. And something that my interest has been 100% into right now is these browser extensions that are, as you said, it's continued on over 14 years since browser extensions came out. And I don't see it slowing down. In fact, there are threat actors like North Korea that are picking this up as tradecraft and using it primarily to carry out their missions, right, and target specific people. So, yeah. So the tool that I'm creating is called Secure Annex, and it's going to be a tool some may know CR Excavator, which has ceased to work recently. And I just want to profile qualify, understand what is going on in a Chrome extension, and be able to provide people enrichment info, not only just at a point in time, but through the past, see what changes have occurred, see if ownership has changed, if any URLs present in those extensions have become malicious, and really give a decent code review, dig in deep, as the extensions aren't that easy to really unpack if you're just looking at them from the web store. So that is the synopsis of Secure Annex as it is right now. But, I can get into a presentation a little bit that I gave at Mission Control, do a quick slides overview. But really what I want to do is give a demo of capabilities of Chrome extensions and show off like how nasty that they can really be, and then how I can go about identifying them.
If you can give a demo, that would be awesome, because I feel like that's going to be the most
cool.
That's going to be the most engaging, and walking through what you built is really cool.
Yeah. I'll get into the demo then straight away. So what I have here is, let me bring up these other browsers. So I am a believer that work happens in the browser now, where we all used to have a application for a database or work in a tax reporting software. Now we all know that people log into Snowflake, or your tax finance applications are all living on a SaaS app that people will log into. And all those are protected by SSO, passkeys, top tier security protection, like secure top authentication methods to be able to access all these resources. We put a lot of time and energy into making sure that we know how people are authenticating, and that authentication is pretty tied together, right? But when you have hooks into the browser, these extensions are able to dig in real deep to the APIs and be able to interact with things like cookies, or take a look at what you're seeing on your screen at any given time. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to turn on a malicious extension that I have that I've created a little bit. This is actually out on GitHub. It's called Crux, but I've gone to the lengths of adding a couple other features to it that are extra nasty. What this is this is an extension that then connects to another server that I'm running over here. And so if I run this, I will start seeing traffic come in for anything that I'm visiting. So you'll start seeing all of this, like, I'm visiting the site, I'm capturing cookies, I'm taking a screenshot of what's going on in the browser. But also, if I go to a service like GitHub, I think, that's one of those crown jewel type resources that people have access to. Not only if you have access to like the source code, but maybe you'll be able to introduce a change as somebody as a developer that is trusted. So let's go sign in. And I'm going to sign in with my passkey, right? We all know trust passkeys. We know the type of stuff or the uses for passkeys and what they can protect all of phishing. But now what the browser is doing is it's capturing all these screenshots every 10 seconds, and we're able to see what activity I have going on in this. So if I want to go to this page on the next update of screenshot, you'll see that I'm on a new page, right? So I think of this as, say you're going into a database and you're doing a query and you're pulling credit cards, and that's all visible on the screen. I think a browser extension might be able to grab that and exfil that off to a third-party server. All right. But that's not all, because what I'm also doing is anytime a cookie changes, I'm saving that off to my external server. And so I'm going to go over to this like incognito tab. You can see no magic tricks. If I refresh here, I'm going to go import these cookies. and I'll refresh, and now I am my session over on the right side. So now I've become, not only can I see where the crown jewels are in GitHub and where I'm navigating to, but I can also replay that session and become it and become that user and know exactly where I need to navigate to in order to interact with the data hands-on.
And John, I want to like really make sure that this is not over the heads of anybody here. So basically what you're able to do there is kind of steal the authentication token that the user uses to access a website, right? But am I mistaken to say that that is even scarier than it sounds, because this is one of the ways that threat actors get past things like MFA?
Absolutely. And I think passkeys are great technology. It's the best that we've ever been able to come up with from a usability and authentication standpoint for spear phishing and trying to capture passwords. But the threat here is not passwords, but being able to capture a session, and maybe the session only lasts for 15 minutes or something, right, until it gets re-authenticated. But every time that this user on the right browses or has a cookie change, all of that session updating is getting sent to my server as well. And I'm able to update my cookie then as well, as long as that extension keeps installed.
This is pretty scary stuff right here. It makes me wonder, I mean, is there any statistics as to how many extensions do this? I mean, do you have any data on this?
So, and that's a really great question, right? Because this is a very obviously bad, malicious extension. And if I had my guess, like, this would never be able to get past Chrome publishing this extension to the web store so that nobody would be able to access it, right? This is me developing an extension. I sideloaded it in. This is to show off some of the capabilities, right? Now, I still think your question is absolutely valid that when you minify or when you obfuscate code deep enough, there's nothing to say that there isn't this capability happening in the Chrome Web Store or in any extensions elsewhere. So where we're kind of stuck is like, how do we figure out where that code is, and can we actually like suss out what an extension is doing? And even then, what I want to kind of point to is this recent tradecraft by North Korea, this translate text extension that was North Korean. They developed a malicious Chrome extension. They were able to target specific South Korean researchers, load it in, sideload it, right? Not from the web store. It wasn't published, but they were able to load it into these researchers, get it onto their PCs. And what the point I really wanted to like make here is that I just replicated a bunch of their tradecraft they captured the visible tab. They sent all the cookies that are being read. They were able to classify and track what websites and what resources that were being accessed, so that they knew exactly everything that these researchers were doing in the browser. And they were able to map out and gain access to everything that they needed to by doing this. So,
John, I'm curious, was this extension one of those situations where it was originally a legitimate extension and it gained widespread adoption and then was sold to somebody with bad intent, or was it always a bad extension?
This one was always a bad extension that was on GitHub, and then the threat actors were able to convince the researchers to install it from GitHub. Wow. Or have there's that one way of doing it. There's been a lot of other instances of malware installing Chrome extensions, so you don't have to, like, if you're able to drop in, you can sideload a Chrome extension pretty silently, and you'll be able to get the extension in that way instead of from the Chrome Web Store. So, yeah, a couple different methods that are going on here.
I know that that's becoming a more and more common remediation step when random various malware lands on a box, bad thing happens, script runs, whatever. It's becoming more common now that part of cleaning that system is not just getting rid of the malware, not just getting rid of its persistence mechanism, but also looking for and getting rid of whatever browser changes were made, right? Make changes to the homepage, install an extension. And it's just kind of wild, like how many different avenues malware has to try to spread itself on a box, and the browser's a juicy target. Because as you've called out, this is how the user interfaces with everything they do. They're gaining access to work resources, school resources, research, source code. It's all there. It's all in the browser.
Yep. Now this is, all these APIs are available. Like this is all a balance, right? All these APIs are given to developers by Chrome saying, extend this browser as far as you possibly can. We can't create every feature request. Plug in however you wish and create the solutions that you and your users want to actually use. And so not like you have to balance, yes, these APIs are available. If you want to actually send this out to the public through the Chrome Web Store, they do go through a review of, some level, and then they're published out there. That review only happens when on the initial publish though. So if you were to have this extension and get these permissions approved for legitimate purposes, it's very hard to track when an owner might change or when code might be updated, which is all instantaneous, silent to most admins. And maybe if there's no new permission changes, no user is ever going to know the difference between functionality change in the background, because it's really hard to dig into the background workers and see what they're actually doing once the extension's actually installed.
And that's the thing, John, that I think terrifies me the most here, because I think back to my one known run-in with a malicious extension. How I found out about it was that it was very obviously injecting advertisements in pages that would not have otherwise had them. And I knew this because I went to a LAN resource, like a router or a NAS or something, and got the same ad on that page. So I'm like, okay, something's up. But I'm almost thankful that it was such an obnoxious and obtrusive, intent there, because that's how I knew it was there. But imagine if it was something stealthier, if it was something more covert, and how much longer had that gone on? That's kind of alarming.
Yeah. And so to what I found so far is that it's nothing outwardly malicious or all of that might be happening outside of the web store. Not to say that it's not still bad, but anything in the web store that might have been taken over really seems to point closer towards more silent proxy services or affiliate fraud, or being able to inject those ads that you're kind of talking about. One example here is some recent research about hide YouTube shorts, which has actually been a chain of extensions or a bunch of related extensions that are doing about the same thing. And what the author is kind of pointed to is some owners of extensions have reached out to him after he published this service or this research, saying that this company that's putting together all these extensions have been offering him or the owners of the extensions about 20 cents to $1 per daily active user, right? So you can think that if you create an extension that has 10,000 users, and this is your spare time, spare project or side project, if somebody came to you and said, hey, I'll give you $10,000 to keep up with this extension and manage it on your behalf, I think a lot of people are going to actually take that, right? And lo and behold, what they're actually going to do is they're just going to use that captured user base and start pumping it into this affiliate fraud, or be able to take a little bit of money off the top saying, hey, I sent you this traffic, or just malicious means. And it's really hard to, is that necessarily malicious? I think that's something that organizations and enterprises would really take consideration of or have issue with, when all of the traffic profiling for all their internal services that might be accessed over a VPN or all these other like indicators of internal tooling is just getting sent out to these fraudulent services, or who knows where they're actually being sent to, right?
And John, something else I'd love to hear from you again. I mean, you and I had already talked about this, but just for anybody else that has been following. So, what was the big difference between the V2 and the V3? And first of all, like, what do the manifests even mean? And then with the change from 2 to 3, what are we gaining? What are we not? Like, what's actually changing?
Yep. So what Eric's talking about is Chrome and basically the Internet Consortium, right? Everybody that creates browsers are trying to move from a new permission setup in Chrome or in browser extensions, and it's been coined the Manifest version 2 to Manifest version 3 move. What that it really boils down to, and I think the greatest change between 2 and 3 is like you're no longer able to execute remote code from your browser extension. So it used to be in the past in version 2 that you could pull in an external JavaScript file that you could change at any given time without having to go through the review process and be able to inject new code into your extension at any given time. Well, thankfully and I think, we all know how bad that should be. They're doing away with that, which is very positive, but doesn't necessarily like eliminate the issue of either obfuscating the code or making it so minified that you can't really tell what's going on anyways. And it's not like, I don't know how many people here have actually dove into a Chrome extension, but it's hard to actually pull them down or unpack them and know exactly the ins and outs of it anyways. And then a lot of people will hear about uBlock Origin, which is a fantastic web ad blocker being deprecated in version 3. They're doing away with something called declarative net request. So no longer can you just dynamically say that traffic is going one way or another, which is what uBlock Origin used to allow users to create rules to say, oh, I don't want to load this resource, and I don't want to load that resource. There's two sides of that. Like, yes, it's good that all of the code contained in a Chrome extension should be present in the extension as it's packaged, and you shouldn't be able to modify it all willy-nilly. But, it takes away a lot of good functionality that people were. I think uBlock Origin is a great security tool, just in general, to block malicious ads as well. So a little bit unfortunate there. But aside from that, Eric, do you mind if I get into the tool a little bit and just give it a look? This is what the Secure Annex is looking like right now. This is the dashboard. You can go to secureannex.com. There's a login at the top right. And I just wanted to go over a couple extensions or what you might be able to see when you log in here. So this is a view. Yeah.
Absolutely.
This is a view into a given extension where we'll do a little executive summary analysis. You'll be able to see any of the risks that manifest might present that we were just talking about. You'll be able to see any URLs, and we'll do a small code review. Now, what's interesting about this one is this is a online antivirus protection service. Say your CrowdStrike goes down for a couple days and your users get the idea that they need to install their own antivirus in the browser. Maybe they go and find this, this is active in the web store, looks pretty decent to me, has 20,000 users. But what it does is it's going to redirect all of your new searches over to chromeapps.site/scan, which is nice. And then there's this other random URL to Norton Antivirus, right? Like, that's fine and all. I don't think that this is actually performing any real antivirus protection. It's actually just sending all of your searches off to chromeapps.site. But, maybe chromeapps.site is just doing some scanning of so I guess it's just home green plant purifiers. So, all right, that seems a little sketchy, but that's just one thing. Like, what if we were able to see what other places that chromeapps.site was going to be used in? So if I can go to URLs, domain, and I go search chromeapps.site, now I can see all these other extensions that are also using chromeapps.site as a piece of, this is an audio recorder, Spotify web player, and one porn blocker, right? But when you go through the code review of all of these, you'll see that they all just replace the search URL, the OmniSearch, and send out your traffic to chromeapps.site, right? So I think this is visibility that not a lot of people have been able to have when investigating a Chrome extension or digging in deep or needing to know the ins and outs of them. This one also has, well, if we go back to...
Yeah. And so, John, I'm guessing one of the potential ways to use this is if somebody wanted to simply look it up, right? Like, I've got an extension I'm interested in. I could maybe just take the extension ID and query it against your database. And if you've analyzed it, I can get a report, right? Okay. And what if you hadn't analyzed it at that point?
So we have, I have a feeling that I have a good portion of the web store right now, but there's also a visibility setting for a Chrome web store where you can have them unlisted. And so I can't actually like crawl the links that easily. If you put in a extension that I'm able to like get to the web store and find, then I'll start analyzing it instantly on that. So it would be like a couple of minutes before you then have results.
Got it. So that's pretty cool. So this is something that somebody could maybe consider integrating into maybe like some sort of detection logic, right? For a new extension being installed in a box and just basically get like a reputation check on it, right?
Yep. Yeah. And it's everybody like loves ratings and all of this. Where I've kind of hedged on right now is this executive summary of, hey, I took a look at the code. You can dig in deep. I'll give you some references, but also give you an executive summary of the most recent reviews, any manifest issues, any vulnerabilities that are present in the code, any Yara signatures that are matched on. And as I continue to go, that will get more and more. One thing I will point out, like when you sign in, you can go to your settings tab. There's an API with a quota, some documentation on how to use the API. And I think that's the right path to take is, my site is well and good and all of that. But when you start instrumenting this with your CrowdStrike or your Lima Charlie or your other telemetry OS query and be able to look up these things and provide instantaneous enrichment to people, that's when I think we're really going to make a difference.
Yeah, that sounds like the right answer, right? The automated approach, for sure. But I just think this is super cool, John, because like I think it's easy to kind of look at this and say, oh, well, yeah, of course that makes sense. But it's also weird to say that nothing like this has existed before, right? Like I don't think VirusTotal is accepting Chrome extensions per se. Or if they would even, perform the type of analysis that you're looking for specifically with Chrome extensions. And so it's kind of cool that like it's basically what you built here. Oh, you got something queued up there?
Well, no, I mean, it's just, I do link to, I take a hash of the CRX to like the zip. And for most of these, I don't know how well
those engines are probably just
do.
Yeah, because I would imagine those engines are not really tuned for the kind of things that, because what is anyway a browser extension that just simply redirects your search URL, right? Like, is that malware? No, it is not. Is it something I want on my system? No, it's not. So it's not really a VirusTotal use case. So, that makes sense. But, John, we're out of time, man. But, please, if you don't mind, if there's any other thoughts or resources that come to mind that you think, folks might appreciate hearing about, drop it into our Slack. I know you're a member in there, in the Defender Fridays channel. If there's any links or resources or information about the free tier that folks can get in there and dive into, feel free to drop those links. But thank you so much for joining us today, John. Really appreciate you. And, thank you everybody else for joining us, and we'll see you same time, same place next week.
Thank you all.